boy, do we have reason to bitch. Although, I don't know, how do you look at this? Would you say, the Panthers made progress by making it into the second round of the NHL Stanley Cup chase? Now you have to win 4 rounds to win the thing, so pretty far off. They did get out of the first round for the first time, but didn't look too comfortable doing it, didn't they? Did they look like somebody that had to go to the bathroom the entire time they were sitting at dinner? But didn't want to get up because they want to go take a dump in a public bathroom while eating dinner there. That gets a little obnoxious. And then you come out of the stall and there's somebody else in the bathroom. They're just combing their hair and they're like, whoa, man, get a little fiber in your diet. Why don't you? I mean, try some wheat, anything.
The time.
Wake up with Defo, joined by Lubie. Welcome to the Defo Show.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Good to be with you here on this fine Wednesday edition. It's the Defo Show, Jeff Deforrest, and a very happy and festive Mike Lubitz. Always in a great mood early in the morning. I love talking with Lubie before we get the show going, where whatever I say, he goes, yeah, what are you talking about? No, it's great. Good to be with you, and it's funny to start out. I mean, you hate to start out at the most base level of humor, where we're doing bathroom jokes, which, you don't want to get up and take a dump when you're having dinner with somebody at a restaurant. And it is true, the restaurant bathroom, somebody else walks in there and you can almost sense their trepidation about being in the same room with the stench that you were leaving there. But it was worse. I mean, the most hideous thought that you could possibly have is having to use, and this was 10 and a half hours on a plane. Now, you've been flying as a world traveler for a while. This was my first experience with a plane ride that was any longer than 5 or 6 hours. I've flown to L.A., I've flown to Vegas many times, cross country many times, but never anything in that, 10-plus range. But, I mean, the whole thought of having to use the airplane bathroom to take a dump,
it's fun.
My God. I mean, I've never done it. I want to say I've never done it. I probably have had to do it once, but wow. I mean, you talk about disgusting. And then they're always, by the time you get out of there, like it takes me a while because I have to bring my New York Post in there and read it, but didn't really have that opportunity on a plane. I pulled a Lubie. I brought a book with me, nice. Believe it or not. Remember when you brought like 6 books with you to fly out to San Francisco that time?
I did.
Now, did you read any of them? Did you read a single word of any?
I usually read about half to one of the books. I don't get to, if I bring multiple ones, I don't usually get to them because they have movies and stuff. So I'll go back and forth.
Yeah, no, you have some options, maybe watching TV, although I'm not a big fan of those little headsets. My hearing is just about shot anyway from wearing headsets at the highest of volumes for the last 50 years doing radio and television work. And, of course, listening to loud music all the time. And, this even goes back to my early youth when I was a drummer. And I remember after shows, you would finish up and your ears would literally be ringing. Like you could see the word Zildjian in front of you for the next 5 days. So, it's no surprise that, if you say something to me, and you say, I'm almost getting like, unfortunately, my good friend, Danny Little Red Lopez, the great featherweight champion, after hadn't seen him for probably about 25 years and ran into him with my friend Albert Davila one time. He took me over to Danny's house and, it really was true. I said, hey, Danny, you're looking good. How are the kids? And he said, you know what? It's beautiful outside. I was like, what? Now, that was a little bit of dementia there because Danny had been hit in the head too many times. But, I'm going along with conversations now, even though I have no idea what the person said to me. Do you find yourself doing that, Michael?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, for sure. I've done that most of my life.
Because you can't distinguish what they said, or because you're not interested in what they
both.
said?
Both. I was gonna say both. A lot of the time, it's like okay, and on top of that, I don't know what the hell they're talking about.
It's exactly the case, and I'm envisioning certain people that I've been sitting with, in one-on-one conversations, and it occurs to me, and this is true of the broadcast industry. Why would I be listening if I'm not the one talking? Oh, the guests we have on are worth a listen here, Lubie, and back and forth. Yes. There's a little bit of a timing element here, so we find ourselves stepping on each other every now and then. But no, you don't want to be coming out of that. You don't want to be going into the airplane bathroom, even after 6 or 7 hours on a flight, and realize that I can't hold this any longer. So we start at the most base of levels here today on the program. Now, many things to talk about. Holy Roger Bear, man. The Rangers got shellacked last night by the Tampa Bay Lightning. You can never count out a champion, Lubie, Never
Yes.
count out the champ.
Yes, we found
It
that
could be
out.
the final seconds of the last round of a 12-round fight, even going back in the days, speaking of Little Red, when they had 15 rounders. Can you imagine having to hang in there for 15 rounds? You ever box like you did? You boxed one round when we had that gym
I
sponsoring the
tried.
show.
I tried to box around. It didn't go well.
Well, whether you were able to land any punches or you got the snot beaten out of you, or, I remember you were fighting like some woman who was actually a professional female boxer, which I don't necessarily hold in the highest of regard. They've come a long way. But I used to have to call some of the early women's boxing matches. They had a fascination with this, where they were always putting a women's bout on the card in regular cards where you would be featuring, a championship fight, maybe as the main event, a pretty good co-feature, and then it would slide in a women's bout. It became very popular with promoters. But the problem was there was no depth in women's boxing. So you might have a Christy Martin, but you'd be hard-pressed to find 3 other women who could compete with her at her level. You might find one, but very hard to find any kind of depth at that level. So most of the women's bouts were blowouts. In fact, I do remember this distinctly. Freddie Pacheco, the fight doctor, who I called a few fights with when they first started this series, the Schlitz Malt Liquor Fight Night on what was then known as Sunshine Network. Now it's Fox Sports Sun. But they were doing a boxing series. And, of course, I love the fact that I got to talk my way. My good friend Dave Omstedt got me a leg up and got me the play-by-play job. I hadn't really done it at that level before. I'd called a couple of fights. And next thing you know, you're on international television. And I'm working with who? The fight doctor,
Nice.
Freddie Pacheco. But Ferdy, he could be a little cantankerous and irascible, as we like to say about the gambling gourmet Mike Mayo. And, wasn't always the easiest guy to work with. For me, he was fine. Got along great with Freddie Pacheco. And I loved that frog-like voice that he had. I thought it was perfect for boxing color commentary. It didn't matter if he was saying anything that was relevant. It didn't matter if he had juxtaposed the 2 fighters and he was calling Jones Smith and Smith Jones throughout the fight. And then what do you do in that spot? I think we've discussed this before, Lubie. Now, you're on a national television broadcast, and you realize that the guy that you're working with has the 2 fighters confused. Do you correct him? No, yeah, I mean, you can't. It's the fight doctor, for God's sake. He was working with Marv Albert, all those shows on NBC. Are you kidding me? He had Rock and Robin Blake and all of those stars that were coming up. And it was great. It was a staple of my television viewing every Saturday to watch Freddie Pacheco and Marv Albert doing the fights, usually out of Tampa, Florida, promoted by Phil Alessi, who was more known for olive oil than he was for boxing, but was a big-time boxing promoter there at the time. In fact, he was the guy that was responsible for these fights that I was calling on Fox Sports Sun. But Ferdy refused to call the women's bout. Can you imagine? He actually told the director, I ain't doing this shit.
Oh, come on.
He thought it was so disgusting that they were promoting these women's bouts, and he felt so little regard for the whole idea of women being in boxing that he refused to work those bouts and actually would walk off and then come back. I would call those matches by myself. And then Ferdy would come back, and we'd have to explain. Ferdy, he had to, use the men's room, but he missed the 3 rounds that happened there. But it was fairly ugly, to have to deal with somebody that just didn't want to acknowledge that this was a coming thing. Now, I don't know. Has it advanced to the point they just had a headliner at Madison Square Garden? This kid, no, not a kid. I mean, she's in her 30s. Katie Taylor is like the big name, and she's from England, I believe, or Australia, one of those places. And she's huge internationally, and she fought a young lady who has a very interesting story named Serrano. And they were the headliners at Madison Square Garden. It was an historic event, and they each made like $1 million, Libby. So it's come a long way. I don't know. I mean, when Layla Ali was boxing, did she ever fight anybody besides Joe Frazier's daughter that you would recognize or remember?
No, not that I recall.
No, it was never like a sport. Christy Martin kind of had a run there when Tyson was in prison. Don King did a great job of promoting her, the coal miner's daughter. But overall, as compared to other sports, I don't know. Women have made advances there. But I don't know that I really need to see 2 chicks duke it out. Do you? What do you think? UFC? I mean, it's sort of interesting in the UFC when the women fight, and maybe even more entertaining than the men in some cases. Well, what do you think, Libby? Women's UFC.
Women's MMA I've found more exciting than women's boxing. At least they seem to get after it a lot more. Men's MMA is boring, and I'd rather watch boxing. But women boxing, I don't know. I've never really gotten into it. I'm not against it. I mean, it's fine. I've just never really gotten into it.
Oh, Mike Mayo, a professional
Chimes
tip
in,
here,
give you a
says take
heads
2
up.
Imodium before any international flight.
I just go to the restroom. I've never had an issue going to the restroom. That's just, I guess, me.
But they're usually, by the time you get out of there, there are like 3, 4 people stacked
Yes.
into this very small space there. It's almost like
There
the
are.
entrance into the Sistine Chapel, where, everybody has to go through that little bit of a squeeze, no pun intended. It's ugliness. It really is. All right, speaking of Mike Mayo, I know he's a diehard Ranger fan, and I have a little
Ugh.
Ranger blue in my blood. I grew up on the Rangers. I loved it. You had the Chief, Jimmy Nielsen, Harry Howell were the 2 defensemen. What did Harry Howell? What was his number? I think Harry Howell was 3 and the Chief was 5.
Okay.
We might have to look that up. My memory not necessarily functioning at the same levels that it once did when I actually had a memory. But I want to say Harry Howell was number 3. And he was old from the time he was born. He was one of those guys that as a baby had like an old man's face. And the Chief, Jimmy Nielsen, he was a very popular player. Of course, my favorite, threesome there with the Rangers was the great line of Roger Bear, the great Jean Rattel, underrated. Do you hear a lot of talk about Jean Rattel? He was brilliant, man, in the center there. Roger Bear, Jean Rattel, and Vic Hadfield was the guy on the outside, a real scrapper like a Brian Scrudlin type, Vic Hadfield. And that was a tremendous line for the Rangers. Watched a lot of Ranger hockey as a kid when they were in the 6-team league. They were never really among the elite there. I mean, it was a little bit of a stretch to think that they might win a championship. In fact, they had that long dearth and drought where they never came near or sniffed a Stanley Cup. The Montreal Canadiens tended to dominate back then. Toronto Maple Leafs weren't half bad. The Chicago Blackhawks had their time. Detroit was And the Boston Bruins, of course, had some very good teams. But the Rangers were, of the 6 teams, probably 4th, 5th, 6th likely every year to win the Cup. So this is great from a lot of different angles because I'm trying to decide this, Lubie. I have a local debate for you here, and that would be the Panthers, who got knocked out and was alluded to in that clip. They got knocked out in the second round of the playoffs, swept by the Lightning, who looked like they were up against it against the New York Rangers, losing the first couple of games at Madison Square Garden. Scene shifts back to Tampa, and the Rangers have the Lightning by the jugular. They're about to go up 3-0 in the series. Very prohibitive to come back from that, although not completely impossible. And they would have been in such a commanding position that you would have to think that they were going to move on and be the team that would face the Avalanche for the Stanley Cup championship. And now that we followed it a little bit more closely this year than we have in previous seasons, because the Panthers actually were involved for a little while anyway, you see what an arduous, long, tough road it is to win the Stanley Cup. I mean, look at what the Rangers have gone through just to get to this point, and now they find themselves 2-2, still with home ice advantage at the Garden against the Tampa Bay Lightning, who demonstrated once again their Tony Segreto-like in-the-moment championship medal by putting on just an excellent performance last night. Vasilevsky goes impenetrable until the very end there. The Rangers got a late goal when they went 6-on-4, and then eventually gave up an empty netter, so the final margin was 4-1. But essentially, it was a 3-zipperoni right to the final minutes of the game. The Tampa Bay Lightning better steadily throughout the game, managed to put a couple of pucks behind, is it Shesterkin? Is that how you pronounce it? It's not Shesterkin, but I think it's Shesterkin. The goaltender, who's been phenomenal for the Rangers. I mean, he has been one of those guys that you could ride his back, and he was spectacular, even in a losing effort, stopping like 50 shots in game number 3. Game 4 wasn't quite as effective. A couple of rebounds did him in, and just opportunistic. I mean, the players, that Maroon is always on top of it, Stamkos, Kucherov, he's going to make a contribution at some point in time for the Lightning. Listen to how we picked up on this stuff, Louie. Couldn't have said this a month ago.
You've just
Shit's just falling off my tongue here as if I know what I'm talking about.
Look at you.
Don't be fooled, people. No, but it reminded me. I remember I was watching a match, and I'll never forget this. I'm watching a match, and I don't remember who the opponent was because the focal point obviously was Steffi Graf. And Steffi Graf was on, like a career-long run, but she was really on top of her game. I mean, just unbeatable. And I remember her being down a set, and I think she was down like 5-1 in the second set. And the opponent had a chance to put a shot away and muffed one at the net, blew a duck right at the net. And there it was. I mean, it went from like love 40. Somehow Graf rallied, broke serve in that game, came back, and you said, there it is. You just can't leave even the slightest crack of daylight against certain players, teams, or opponents. And when you do, the great ones know how to just jump in there and take advantage of it. They do it all the time. They dialed it the other day, even in that first set tiebreaker against Zverev, who, by the way, ended up 3 torn ligaments in his ankle, had surgery, and going to be out, obviously, for a while. And you can only hope he comes back to being somewhat the same, because he was starting to trend towards maybe being among, I don't know if he was going to be among the game's elite, but you have to figure that with Federer pretty much done. I don't know. Does Roger ever play again? Is he going to play Wimbledon? Not sure. I haven't heard anything about Roger Federer. I don't even see Federer in commercials anymore. Is that a quick fade or what?
Yeah, he's like gone.
One of the best-looking athletes in all regards that you've ever seen. And in terms of accomplishment, I mean, you can't say it's unparalleled because Nadal has more Grand Slams than he does, but would you consider, is it fair to say that Roger Federer might be the greatest of all time? I know that there are Rod Laver guys out there. I don't know if I can judge Laver against today's players. Can you?
I would do Sampras more than Laver, but Federer seems to be the guy that no matter what Djokovic and Nadal do, people will settle in on Federer being the best ever.
It was just the style and, sort of finesse with which he played at the same time, a vicious power game, and his ability to dig his way out of situations and face pressure with always looking like the epitome of calm. You didn't see Federer screaming, who are these guys yelling at after they miss a shot? You ever watch that in tennis matches? It's particularly common today. I mean, even in a sort of inconsequential setting where you're in the first set of an early round match against an opponent that you're likely to beat, and then the favorite misses a shot, hits one into the net, and then turns to the crowd and looks like they're talking to somebody specifically and just starts swearing and cursing and screaming at the top of their lungs. They are really hard on themselves, these tennis players, are they not? Are all athletes like that? I mean, I don't think it's necessarily healthy. What happened to all the sports psychologists out there that would tell you, hey, look, you know what? Just turn a page. I like you doing horse racing. You lose a race, you can't sit there and go, oh, you believe that? I had the 5, but I didn't have the 3. Shut up, you weak, wimpy crybaby, and just put your tickets on in the garbage can, hopefully, not even on the ground, so some other schmenk has to come along and clean it up. Although, are we providing jobs by throwing our losing tickets on the ground, Lubie? You wouldn't want to deny a sweeper a chance to...
There you go, the economy.
Why don't they just use the leaf blower to take those tickets out of there? And there's another thing. You talk about a flawed invention, the leaf blower. Where are they blowing these leaves?
Yes, it just moves it
around. Just blowing them from your yard into your neighbor's yard. That's it.
That's all it does.
You see these landscaper guys out there. They come literally like you see a convoy coming out of one of those little trucks. Right? They open the back of whatever thing they're towing, and then 16 vehicles come out of there, as if it was a Trojan horse. It's just absolutely incredible. And they all have leaf blowers that are very loud. Nobody's ever invented a muffler for the leaf blower. And where are they blowing this shit? Into the street.
Around. It just comes back.
What happened to the grass catcher? I mean, what's wrong with that? You can't have some kind of thing conceptually? Well, we really have to work on this, because I've been seeing that ad on TV a lot. It always comes on right after. There are 3 ads that air late at night on CNN. The Tom Selleck reverse mortgage ad. This isn't my first rodeo. Okay, Tommy boy. We know you trust these people. In fact, I would imagine your Beverly Hills mansion is right now being financed by a reverse mortgage from AAG.
Exactly.
And then, when you talk about an indecipherable disclaimer, right? That pops up on the screen there. And can you read a single word of that? Can you make out one thing? Nothing.
No.
They should just put a skull and crossbones up on the screen.
Exactly.
And this ad that airs in between, I mean, the other ad that's always on is the Flex Seal family of products with Phil Swift. Phil Swift, who, is one of about 4 or 5 of these kind of pitchmen. But you talk about a guy that fell into a good pile of stuff, huh? How much money is this guy making off Hawking? You think he has a piece like William Shatner did when he was promoting, what was that, Byline or whatever that thing is, where you buy the stuff online?
Oh.
Yeah, Shatner had a piece, and he made like $50 billion on the thing. It was absolutely fantastic. It was one of those 50 Cent type of deals where you say, what do you mean you're broke? You're filing for bankruptcy today? You just made like $300 million.
Exactly.
I didn't realize this either. Speaking of guys making money on the side, which is a big issue today with this golf tour thing, and I don't know how you feel about it, Lubie. Did these guys sell out? Should we be judgmental about Dustin Johnson saying? And I didn't bring my post in here into the room where we're broadcasting from, but I mean, when a guy gives you that business that it's all about the family,
Oh, please.
come on, man. I mean, are you really abdicating your position on the PGA Tour and your stature as an American athlete and a pride of this country? And you're taking $125 million just guaranteed. And there are only about 8 events on this tour. Can you believe that? I mean, that would be a tough thing to turn down. Mike Mayo, speaking of Mike Mayo, his friend, he introduced me to at the pizza spot one day, a gentleman named Joe Casal, who I follow a little bit on Facebook here because he's in love with his dog and always has some interesting things to say. And I'm a dog lover, so I love the fact that this guy's so into his dog. And he was a sports agent, and I guess at a very high level of sports agentry, and not just necessarily representing players, but involved in all kinds of different sporting events and promotion of events. So he was telling a story about how Greg Norman, who's the face behind this LIV tour, the Live Tour that the Saudis are putting on. And most people view this as, just sports washing, as it's known, where you try to wash away all of the atrocities that your country is involved in because it's led by a few just unscrupulous and, completely inhumane and sensitive people. Don't mean to cast those aspersions, but this is the general premise of the whole thing. Mm-hmm. I mean, I remember watching whoever it is, the Saudi prince, whoever the big guy is now, was in a sit-down interview one-on-one with Norah O'Donnell of CBS on 60 Minutes. And she's point-blank asking him about, so did you have this guy Khashoggi whacked? And, he gave a bunch of those Marco Rubio type of answers. Well, whacked is a general term there, Norah. I'm not sure exactly what you mean by that.
Come on, man.
Atrocities, right? Now, are you endorsing and embracing those? This was an interesting question. I mean, because Joe, I guess, was offered, he said, by Greg Norman a chance to do something with the tour, and they were willing. They're paying like zillions of dollars. They hired a soccer announcer away. I think his name is it Aldo White? Is that the name of the guy? He's like a big time soccer announcer.
Good for you.
He also does golf in Europe. Anyway, he was making a few $100,000 because he's a big-time broadcaster in Europe with soccer. And they offered him like millions to be the official voice of this LIV tour. So Joe, and his question was, does everybody have a price, Lubie?
Oh, I mean, yes.
Obviously,
yeah, Arlo White. Good job by you, Arlo White.
Yeah. All right, so he just got millions to do these 8 golf events and be like a face of the LIV tour, right? All of a sudden, he's Jim Nantz. Hello, friends. Aren't you waiting for a golf ball to come careening off the backdrop there on the set one day?
Yes. Yes.
You see Nantz duck out of the way. Look, 4! With Nick Faldo, doing the color analysis. I mean, I don't know. Somebody comes along right now and says, hey, Zion Channel is great, but, here's a couple of $1 million to, represent the Saudis calling, some horse racing or something. Do you take it, Lubie? What do you think about the overall impact of that? Tiger Woods, to his credit, turned down $750 million, supposedly.
But look, because he makes enough money. And that's my thing is a lot of these guys make enough money where money's not an issue. Look, for some people where you don't have money, if they're throwing it at you, it's hard to say no. For me, I could use money, don't get me wrong, but I don't know, man. The Saudis are like on another level of how they treat people. And they're blatant about it. And it's like...
Yeah. So you're helping, essentially the message would be you're enhancing their desire to whitewash all of this stuff, all of this atrocious behavior that they're guilty of, because it looks like they're putting on these grandiose sporting events and everybody's happy and having a good time. And, you're crowning a champion and you're totally, as we say, detached from the reality of the universe here because you're worried whether or not, Sanchez is going to hit a home run because of his spite for the fact that the Yankees gave up on him, even though he was hitting 129 and couldn't catch a watermelon. Try to roll it by him. Andy, our good friend Andy says, if the Saudis offered us $1 million to do golf, he'd be waking up to Imus every morning.
Yes, he actually asked. I give him credit. Yes. I mean, look, I don't want to just assume I'd say no. I'm sure I'd consider it. I mean, $1 million, whatever the hell they're offering is insane. But They're
I
so.
only,
They're
I only,
chicken
I only
people
need
so-
like 1 or 2 years at $1 million, Lubie, and I'm done.
I know, and then you tap out.
1 or 2 at $1 million, and I tap out. I'll be traveling the world
It's
there.
just
I'll be
that
on the
I could
Amalfi Coast.
never. Yeah, there you go. It's just to me, once you do that, then don't talk about you give a shit about people. Like I couldn't have an opinion on anything anymore. Like,
One of his
once-
sponsors dumped him. I think he had like the Royal Bank of Canada or something. It was one of his sponsors, Dustin Johnson, talking about. And he had to, give up his position with the PGA Tour. Although the U.S. Open and the USGA, U.S. Golf Association, a different organization than the PGA Tour, has said that if these guys want to play in the U.S. Open, then they're more than welcome to. Now, if a guy sold out to the Saudis, should that deprive him of a chance to compete in his home country?
To me, yes. Long term, probably won't. I mean, if it's really an exodus, then the PGA is going to have to do whatever they can to keep it together. Right now, it's only been a few guys, so they can stand on their ground. But you know how these people think.
It's mostly washed up Europeans. Guys that are at the tail end of their career,
Right now, yes.
European golfers. So Wiesthausen, old Wiesty, my man, he's gone. Right? Got to use him in all of the major events. I don't know if he's going to play the U.S. Open, but usually a factor there. Martin Keimer, who we cashed 45-1 when he won the U.S. Open that year. That was one of our great predictions of all time, picking Martin Keimer to win the U.S. Open. And he led wire to wire and won it by 10 shots in a runaway. Paid 45-1, and we made a nice little score on that, Libby. That was great. That was when I first got involved in betting golf, and I haven't been able to recover since. That was it. No, I think I hit on Jordan Spieth at 14-1. You don't have to be right that often in golf betting to end up ahead.
I mean,
we're still up, lifetime in those pools, even though we've been sending in a stick for the last 16 majors to no avail. Got another one coming up, not this weekend, but next weekend, U.S. Open. What do you think? You have a choice there yet?
No. You have to show me where you're going with the pool.
I'll tell you where I want to go, man. I don't know if we have the invite to this. It's not necessarily our bag, but, it's such a worthy cause. And Jack Namer behind this thing, The Unveiling. And this is taking place at the Versace Mansion. It's going to be Saturday night, so you cash on the Belmont Stakes, and then you go to this VIP masquerade gala. Or gala.
Nice.
Gala.
Either one works, gala or gala. Go for it.
And it's great. It's a world peace concert fundraiser, so that should be a blast. There's talent here in South Florida. They're all showing up at the Versace Mansion, and it's going to raise money to support the Ukrainian
that's great.
Yes. Refugees, yes. So a very worthy cause here.
Yeah, it's a great cause.
It's going to be absolutely fantastic. So look into that. The Unveiling at the Versace Mansion. And I would imagine Jack and his crew are going to be involved in this thing, right?
Nice.
You would think, out there with a film crew and everything. So he'll be doing his Fellini thing, and no doubt have a lot to shoot there. Because masquerade party, South Beach, Versace Mansion. Come on, Libby. Couldn't be any better. And a concert, and all for a great cause to raise money for Ukrainian refugees. Check that out for more information. Just, I guess, Google The Unveiling. So looking forward to that. I don't know. I won't be able to go. I got invited. I'm going to give you the invitation also, Libby, to a wild party on Saturday.
Okay.
A wild party. So
okay.
I'm looking forward to it.
Let me know. It's been a while since I've been to a wild party.
This one figures to be a good one. It really does. Three guys are having their 60th birthday party. But
nice.
But the premise, because they're all musicians. And so they have like a stage set up. They're going to have live bands all day. Poolside bar. Catering by La Spada's Original Hoagie.
Nice. There you go.
How do you not show up for a couple of hours there and hobnob with some of your old radio buddies? Come on.
Twist my arm. I'm in.
I was given the open, extension of grace to invite other people, cool people in the radio and TV business. So, you're welcome to come because you would probably know a lot of these people, Lou. And they would know of you. Your popularity is far more immense than I ever could have imagined.
I'm sure.
I'm in Italy, and I popped up a thing. A guy asked me what I did. We were talking for a while, so I Googled the Defo show there. Here comes Ion Channel. And, the show looked pretty good. And the guy was very impressed. And before I even had a chance to say, hey, you seen enough? He said, I love Lubie.
I'm sure. I bet.
It's a guy, from Germany. Yeah, came straight
Nice.
from Frankfurt to
Worldwide.
Florence to look at some artwork. All right, we're coming back. Mike Westhoff going to join us. Mike has
Yes,
his book
sir.
out. It's cranking, man. It's called Figure It Out. And you're talking about a guy with over 30 years in the National Football League. Well, we love him. I mean, as an astute analyst as you could possibly find on any kind of football situation. Would you agree with that, Mike Lubitz?
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, we're talking NFL with him as well as talking with anyone. I mean, he has it because he was there and he still can break it down as well. So it's cool. You get both sides of it.
Yeah. No, it's fantastic, and his book is doing great. I saw a review in the New York Post, and they had a lot of interesting things. Of course, he had extracted they had extracted some excerpts about some of the people that we would be familiar with the New York Jets when Mike was there for, about 15 years. Unbelievable. And, of course, I always think of Mike as being a Miami Dolphin guy because that's how I first came across him, and he was always wonderful to me. So it's going to be great having Mike Westhoff on the show. Figure It Out is the name of his book, and we'll get into a lot of things about the book and his stories and experience in the National Football League. Later on, 8 o'clock hour, we go old school with Tony Segreto. That's brought to you by Catholic Health Services and Texas Roadhouse Restaurants. I keep seeing this on Mayo's Let's Eat South Florida page on Facebook, 80,000 strong.
Mhm.
And people are saying, hey, where can you go for a good, reasonably priced steak?
Oh, yeah. Well, there. I
And
wouldn't
there
think
are a lot
twice.
of nice places, right? But, you're still paying
But not
like
reasonable.
$40, $50 for a steak.
That's not reasonable.
Well, it's
It's
reasonable by the
good.
standard of the day, for
good.
sort of high-end restaurants. But here you're getting a steak just as good, and it's like $15.
Yes,
I mean, you're thinking, how can they do this? We'll find out, too.
I wonder that every time.
Always joins us on the program. I'll ask him that question. All right, coming back with more in a moment here. Hialeah Park, a beautiful place to go. Belmont Steaks. I'm cranked. Only 8 horses going into Belmont, Lubie. Did we come back with another bet on Barber Road, who really was a non-menacing 6th in the Derby and did not run in the Preakness? This is a stretch-running son of a gun who had not a great trip with the 20 horses. I started to say not a great trip with the 20 horses in the Derby, and was way back. And then, I mean, I'm watching, and I'm thinking, wow, who's that? That horse is moving pretty fast, and I thought it was Barber Road. And I believe it was. Might have flattened out a little bit in the tail end of the stretch, but certainly looks like a horse equipped to go a mile and a hook. We'll see. Do we come back with that horse and bet it at Hialeah Park? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, why not? It's a Polyman special. He hasn't steered it strong often.
And it's much like Mike Mayo with the fact that the Panthers were a bunch of choking dogs. It was too much to believe that they were that bad that they would lose the first series. But wow. When push came to shove, as they say, when the money was on the table, when they were in the moment, boom, choke city.
Exactly.
You'll only be overwhelmed by your good fortune that you have when you go to Hialeah Park, though. It's absolutely fantastic. You're going to love it. Check it out for yourself. The poker room, champion simulcasting room for the Belmont Stakes is going to be great. Casino is always hopping. Great food and drink. Always a tremendous vibe. It's beautiful, Hialeah Park. Speaking of beautiful, Mike Westhoff. Should be a lot of good stories here coming up with Mike Westhoff. Joins us next year on the Defo Show on Ion Channel and all our other platforms. And we're happy you found us here, and we'll be back with Mike Westhoff in a moment. Now that.
The time.
It's 7:33.
It's Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously, friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. You're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. Good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs unmatched, steaks hand cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.
Any time of year, things can happen to your home or business, and the insurance company can be your friend, but they also can be your enemy. Horizon Public Adjusters, Justina Testa, are here for you to help this process go so much easier. 7 to 10 times more money recovered with a public adjuster than if you went on your own. If there's no recovery, there's no fee. Before you call your insurance company, call Horizon Public Adjusters and Justina Testa at 954-809-8752.
I have sinned against you, my Lord.
The only way to get your morning started is with Defo, joined by Lubie, right here on The Defo Show.
Target was apologetic. I don't know about these other guys going on that Saudi Arabian golf tour. Or do they need to be? That's a whole nother question. Right now, a pleasure as we welcome you back to the Defo Show, Jeff Deforrest and Mike Lubitz, to welcome one of our all-time favorites here on the program. I will never forget some of the sessions that I was privileged to have back in the day. We talk about this all the time, Lubie. I'm sorry you didn't get to experience this. When there was more of an integration of media and people that were involved in executive and coaching levels in sports. And I remember being invited a couple of times into Mike Westhoff's office, and he would explain to me like some piece of minutia that I never in my wildest dreams would have imagined was going to be a factor in a special teams play. Because to me, it was like turning on the grid when you had electronic football and then all the guys would just fall down. I mean, it just looked like a collision thing, like roller derby. And the science behind it and the methodology behind some of the great results that Mike Westhoff had, fascinating to learn about firsthand. And we welcome him to the show because he's now sharing all of his secrets with the world. With the book Figure It Out, which is a smash hit on the sports reading list and also just in general. Michael, welcome to the show. Congratulations on the great results you're getting with the book early on.
Jeff, thank you. Yeah, I'm very pleased since the fact that book isn't even released yet. It'll come out in through Barnes & Noble and Amazon and everyone on July 12th, but it is available through the publisher. The publisher's Mascot books, and you can put it in and punch in the title, Figure It Out, and then able to get it. So I'm very proud of it. I worked hard to do it, almost 3 years. And I just like the book. It's a good story. And I'm very pleased with the fact that we had interviewed a lot of the guys. So, you're hearing me tell the story, and then you're hearing O.J. McDuffie talk about it. And I think that really gives it a level of credibility. And so I'm very proud of that.
Oh, I always love that. I mean, it's great in the Olympics when it happens, when they illustrate the background of different athletes and their stories and how they got to certain places and, how they evolved once they became at the highest level of their sport. And all of these football players have dealt with, a wide range of variables in getting to their position. You saw much of this transition across a long period of time. I was saying in the introduction, Mike, I know it was great because you used to be able to be like close to a coach. It wasn't like, and you're necessarily, hanging out with them all the time. But, there was sort of a warmer relationship, a more intimate relationship with media and players and coaches. How did you see that change over time? And do you think that's a good thing? Because, to get near anybody today in the National Football League, you have to go through more people than you would have to, to get an interview with the President of the United States.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's just like anything, Jeff. Everything's changed. I didn't. Everything was smaller. You had when I first went to Miami Dolphins. With Coach Shula, we had 7, 8, maybe 9 coaches at the most. Wow. I was at the Miami Dolphins last week. I think they had 29. I mean, I don't know. So it's just so different. Now the complex. We had a little tiny place over at St. Thomas. You remember that? Just
yes.
A little,
what a dump.
And now we've got this beautiful, beautiful, beautiful facility. And you got to give the owner incredible credit for providing them with every single possible opportunity. Oh my goodness! I've been around some good looking football places. I've never seen anything like this. But I used to like to be able. I was not afraid to talk with the media. Sometimes I kind of wanted to know them better, so I'd know where I could find them when I wanted to try to kill them, maybe. But I enjoyed it. I respected the fact that what they were trying to do. I really did, and I wasn't afraid to show what I tried to do within a realm, of time those things. So I didn't mind it. And I wasn't to come in and ask a question and be able to say, this is what I'm trying to do, and this is why I'm trying to do it. I believed in that process. So for me, and then when I worked in the media, then I really did respect it for that length of time. But, you know, I met more good people that really that had that did it the right way than I did anything other than that. Now, obviously, that's not always the case. But I think some guys are frustrated in the media because they never got picked in gym class.
Yeah.
There was a whole group of that. So that used to bother me a little bit. But nonetheless, my experiences for the most were very positive, and I've always believed in that. And with you, that was fun to do that. I remember doing it that way, and I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was great. You know, the amazing thing, and I know Lubie's got something for you, Coach, but, you know, the phone rang about 6 times while I was sitting in there for, you know, maybe 45 minutes or so. And it was all other coaches from around the league asking you how to defend a certain kicker. And, you know, what did you do? I mean, how did you protect the fact that, you know, you had a guy that was kicking him off short at the time. And, you know, it was amazing. It was one call after another. You know, hey, Bill Belichick. Yeah, no, I can't talk to you. We're playing you on Sunday. And then the guy would go, oh, I'm sorry, Mike. Anyway, Lubie's got one for you. Mike Westhoff, and the book is out there called Figure It Out, which we've been trying to do for a long time.
Yeah, and it comes out July 12th officially on Amazon, Barnes & Nobles, but you can go to the Mascot, the publisher, directly if you want to get it early. And I would try and get it early because it's going to be a bestseller. Coach, it's interesting because we saw you on Hard Knocks, and you have somewhat of an old school mentality in certain circumstances, but you were the guy that the Saints just a few years ago brought back, who was trying to retire, but they needed you so badly in this modern day football, and you had a huge effect on that team to the point where they literally had punt blocks and field goal blocks, and in that playoff run. It's interesting to me what we see with coaching in modern day. It's as much psychology as it's ever been, and you are a king psychologist. And what we're seeing with the Dolphins is you were just around them with Tua, I find very interesting. The last regime was very old school with him, very tough on him, treated him, you know, like almost what Bill Parcells did to Phil Simms, like he was just some other guy. And this regime, I don't know if they're coddling him, but they're trying to use new age positive reinforcement. It feels like you're a guy that's done both. Like when you take to coaching, we've seen the successful coaches realize each player is different. How did you treat it when you were coaching, and even today?
It's a good question, and I see that. I believe this. You know, I have a master's degree in educational psychology, so it's not like I don't know anything about it. I studied it, but nonetheless, here's you just mentioned it to me that I would be old school. Well, that's because maybe I'm getting old. That's why. That's probably why you think that. But I believe that term's a misnomer.
Yeah.
Old school. I don't think I'm old school at all. What I know that I am is I'm reactionary. Mm-hmm. I'm going to react very vehemently to what I see, and I would much rather be positive and talk and praise people. So, you know, that's really the right way to do it. That's a great job. But I'm not at all afraid to bring up when it's not so good and let someone know that this is not the way we're going to practice. Yeah. You know, I'm start this whole thing over if I have to. I'll go back in the locker room, you know, and we'll come back out. We'll blow the horn and start over. That's just not the way it's going to be. So I want to react to what I see, and I want to be able to talk and tell the players, you know, what I've just witnessed and how I want to constantly be involved with them. I also very much respect their ability to talk with me and to be able to say, you know, hey, coach, let's do this, or what if we did this? And I want a level of communication. I want to be able to discuss it. Now, when it's terrible and someone's not doing it right, or I don't see a particular form of effort, then I'm going to bring it up. I have no problem bringing it up. I absolutely don't. But I would much rather be positive. So, you know, I think sometimes I think you make a big mistake if you don't do it that way, you know, by talking about just everything's going to be positive and positively reinforced. Yes, of course. But I want to tell you what it is. You know, you look right now, you're looking at, I was at the Dolphins and I saw a lot of good things. I mean, this is a pretty talented football team. There's a couple areas that, frankly, I was a little disappointed that day that I really didn't see. And all I want to do is that I know that you don't have to have opening day game plan ready. I know that. It shouldn't be there. But wherever you are in that year, whether you're in a mini camp or OTA, whatever it is, you've prepared for that day. And that day's practice should reflect that preparation. You don't have to look like your opening day, but you better look like you know what you're doing in that particular day in that practice. And if it's not, then I think you have to address that. If it is, then I'm the happiest guy in town. That's all I'm looking for, is that realm of expertise. But in the business like the National Football League, you better be taking positive steps, because that guy, everybody's a good player. I saw speed at that Miami Dolphin practice that I was knocked out with. They can run. If there's a race, the Miami Dolphins are going to win it. I mean, they are fast. That's a fast football team. So, I saw enough things to be very impressed. But then I saw a few things that I wasn't enamored with. And it's not like, I haven't been on some pretty good offensive practice fields in my day. But I was there the whole time with Dan Marino. Oh, just for a second, I was there with Brett Favre, and then I was also with Drew Brees. So I think I know what a good offensive practice is supposed to look like. And if I don't see it, then I want to know why. Same thing with special teams. Every play has to have an exactness to it. And when it doesn't, then it's my responsibility to correct that. Now, whether I have to do it, with a pat on the back or maybe it's something a little bit more aggressive, or I would be pretty upset. But that to me is all coaching is. It's reacting to what we see and teaching it in the right way. That's it. I don't care about old school, new school, millennials. Don't give me all that malarkey. Just play the game the right way.
It's kind of funny. Mike Westhoff with us here on the Defo Show. Jeff Deforrest, Mike Lubitz, Ion Channel, and various other locations where you can find us. You mentioned the old school thing, and I couldn't help when you dropped in the reference to St. Thomas and the practice facility versus what you would have today. And maybe that's an indication that they've taken this whole aspect of athleticism to scientific levels that we could have never comprehended, so-called back in the day. But do you think, that gladiator kind of, a scenario that you had at St. Thomas where, it was like Clubber Lang was getting ready to fight Rocky Balboa and, he's in some dingy gym somewhere in the middle of nowhere. Did that spark any kind of, incentive in players, to be more physical? Do you think, is it possible that things are too refined today in terms of getting athletes into the proper mentality to go out there and do essentially gladiator type of work?
That's an interesting point. I haven't thought of it that way, to tell you the truth. It's really interesting. I think with the way sports have progressed, and with people, what they know today and what they've learned physiologically and what makes, the conditioning is tremendous. I mean, these guys today are really in tremendous shape. They work hard, their weight room, everything they do. We didn't have that back then. We didn't have quite that. But yet, I think we practiced, and this would have to, I'd give credit to Coach Shula. His practices were extremely demanding, but yet they were also the shortest practices that I've ever been around. Ever, anywhere. They were the shortest. But believe me, for that period of time, you better get ready, because we were going to rock and roll. I mean, his practices were very difficult, but they were short. And he believed that, every single thing had to be done perfectly. And so I think there's a lot of, that's the mentality. Did we have that great weight room back then? No, please. The weight room, you could have put it in the back of your car and driven around with it.
Looked like a YMCA would have turned it down. That's for sure, if you donated it to him.
The YMCA would be embarrassed.
Yeah. That hot tub was, what was it? That tub of ice that they had in the middle there of this small locker room. I mean, this was really, you talk about, almost coming out of the dungeon there. That was an atrocity, that St. Thomas practice facility.
But if you'll remember this, though, don't forget this, the practice fields, the fields themselves.
Well, they were good.
Looked like Augusta golf course.
Yeah.
They were beautiful. I mean, the grass was beautiful. Coach Shula did everything he could with what he had.
Yeah.
That's what he did so well. That's why he's the greatest coach. He didn't have the greatest facility. So what? He was going to beat the guy with a better facility because he would do what he had outstanding. That's what he did. That's who he was. And that's what we were as a football team. And when we went on the team, nobody cared what locker room we ran the heck out of. Nobody cared. I tell you what they did know, though. When we came out on that field with Dan Marino and that group, then you better be prepared for that.
Yeah.
because that's where we excel, and that's where Don Shula excelled.
Did you guys have money on how many laps Ed Newman would do in the 6-minute run? Or 12-minute run? 12-minute run? Yeah.
I know what you mean. I used to be that. I never did anything like that because, in fact, I was always so nervous that someone I was coaching wasn't going to make it right, and I was scared to death. I'd had to go out and run an marathon.
Oh, man. I mean, you would think any pro athlete could run for 12 minutes. I mean, if they asked Lubie to do it today, I'm sure he could do it if he had to. But, that was amazing how difficult that was. And it was like simple stuff. I mean, this really was sort of old school conditioning with Don Shula. And the guys didn't come in shape, as you mentioned, because half of them were working other jobs. All right. As a special teams guy, what do you take more satisfaction in? And if it's equal, I understand. But, when like a punt is blocked or a kick is blocked, field goal try, it's great because it's kind of like my golf shot where you hear whoosh, whoosh, because you get that second thwack, and you can hear it down there in the silent. It has to be an exhilarating feeling for a special teams coach. But is there anything sweeter than pulling off a fake punt or a field goal try that goes for a touchdown?
Those are really pretty fun to run. Again, I like when I look at everything that you just mentioned. It's going through my brain, and I'm thinking, what was it about that would get me excited? And to me, it's the matter if it was strategic, because sometimes it's just a complete error where a guy on the team makes a real error. He misses or he blocks the wrong guy. He does something. He just makes a mistake, and there's a play that occurs. But the one that I love is the one that you execute perfectly. You just know you can do it. You've worked it. You've got a guy you want to pick on. You do something, or you line up and run a fake. I loved when we did them at New Orleans. I had Tim Tebow. Not Tim. Tim did it very well for me actually, also. But I had Taysom Hill, and we were successful every single time we ran one. And people question me about this. Sean Payton, who I believe is an absolutely great coach and the best on the field teacher I ever saw in my coaching career. Sean Payton, he really is. He's special on the field how he teaches. All right, he let me. I called those fakes, not him. I did it.
Wow!
But he trusted me. He trusted me. He knew I wasn't going to do it just stupid. I wasn't doing it to get my name in the paper. I knew we needed it, and I knew that this would work. And it worked 100% of the time, every single time we ran any kind of fake. And he trusted me. And he'd look at me sometimes like, I remember one time he came to me and he said, I maybe should have talked to you about running the fake. I said, well, you probably I already called it, so just go get through it because we're going to get it. And we did.
Well, you had a green light like Lou Brock, man, to do whatever you want. Just steal a base, no matter what.
I absolutely had a green light. I did everywhere I've ever been. Nice. But it worked. I didn't do it just stupidly. And so I love that. I mean, when you can pull that, and you're not just tricking somebody, but you're out executing them, to me, that's what coaching's all about.
It's fantastic. How good do you feel when you realize that your punter can throw the ball a little bit, or might have some running ability? and then the other side of it though is oddly Shula considered an old school conservative type of coach. I mean, was a bit of a gambler. I mean, he wasn't Jimmy Johnson in that regard, or Sean Payton, that was one of the boldest calls ever, right? When the Saints won the Super Bowl that year, and he calls for the onside kick to open the second half.
Yeah, Sean did that. That was a good play. Thomas Morstead was kicking off then, and he now is the Dolphins. He now is the punter for the Dolphins.
That takes balls. I mean, it really does. Punter. Yeah.
They did. But see, Sean believed that they needed to steal a possession. Yep. If we're going to win this game, we need to steal a possession. How do you do it? Well, they took a chance on an onside kick. They hit the kick excellently. Tell you the truth, though, they hit it to the wrong guy. They hit it to a wide receiver shape out the ball. Yeah. They made a mistake. One of the Colts called me up after the game and asked me if I would analyze that play and go back through their stuff and pick out something that I felt that the Saints had really capitalized on that they had been doing wrong. And I said, absolutely not. I said, you did nothing. I said, they took the chance. But what they did do, they hit a great kick. Now, the fact they hit it to the wrong guy, well, they got a little lucky on that one. Yeah. But they had the guts and the courage to try it, and it worked. So sometimes those things you have to. Coach Shula used to do. He wasn't afraid to try some things. Yeah. He would. I remember Jim Dunstan. We ran several fakes with Jim, But, it's Jim Jensen. And he's the guy that can get it done. And Don believed in those types of players. He believed in them. And he would let them, he would give them some green lights and stuff. But he was always right on top of every little situation.
Crash is like you. He's out catching fish all the time,
Yeah,
and he
he's,
spends
all
a lot
over
of
us.
time on the water. I always see him like with pictures. It's like the old community newspaper where the little kid has the ring of perch, and they put it in the paper. He's always got a picture of himself holding up a fish. But he was very, very versatile. All right, you mentioned you were at these Dolphin practices. I saw a clip with Mike McDaniel yesterday after the practice. He's walking with a little bit of a swagger, I think, which is I don't know how to interpret. I mean, he's a smallish guy, and it could be I don't see him as a Napoleonic Nick Saban maniacal type, but and he sort of said something that you alluded to earlier, Mike, when you were talking about, and we're talking about Mike Westhoff here on the Defo Show, longtime coach in the National Football League with the book Figure It Out, already getting rave reviews, and that was a nice little piece they had on you in the New York Post. But you mentioned that the guy has to be satisfied with what he did today. And that sort of, I mean, echoed the sentiments that McDaniel expressed in this clip. He was very positive about what happened. He said, this is where we needed to be at today. I mean, it sounded like he was quoting you, Mike Westhoff. Did you whisper this in his ear when you were down there at practice? And what do you make of this guy?
Well, I did. I don't know. I don't know him well enough to say. I really don't. And I know I don't know that much of his background. I know he's been kind of an analytical type guy.
Yeah.
That worked his way up. Kind of the guy that's been behind the computer, going through that style to get into coaching. And he's around. He's been around some good people. So I think that rubs off on you. So we're going to find out. But yeah, I think if that's the way he's looking at it, then I would be very much on his side in that regard. But yet I don't know him well enough, and we're going to find out. I know that they've put together for him a pretty good-looking football team. Can he take it over? I know he's talking about being very positive and a positive reinforcement, and I would agree with that if that's what's called for. If it's called for. And if it was yesterday, then God bless them, and that's what they deserve to hear. But I want to hear that. I want it to be consistent. That's all I know. And I've been around a couple of pretty good head coaches that did things that way. With of course with Don Shula and with Jimmy. When Jimmy was there, Jimmy did a nice job with that. He wasn't a big game plan guy, but he was a really good practice coach in how they practiced. He also managed the game very well. So, everybody has strength. This guy's brand new. What'll his be? I don't know. We're going to find out, though, because they've given him a couple weapons. They've really given him a few weapons. How he's going to handle them, I don't know, frankly. Some of the things that I saw when I was there, I saw some very positive things, and I saw an offensive practice that didn't quite knock me out. But that's going to happen. That's going to happen. But it better not happen too often, that's for sure, or then you're in trouble. So, now they are going against. One of the things that I kind of like is who you're going against. Now, that Dolphin defense is pretty good looking. They're pretty good, and they can run. Yep. I mean, I'd be very disappointed if that's not a very good defensive football team. I would be disappointed. But they look pretty good to me. These guys can run. So you practice against that every day. I remember when I was at the Jets and we were practicing against when Rex first came, that defense that he had with Drell Rivas, and that defense was good. And we weren't, we had Mark Sanchez, who's not this great quarterback by any means, but Mark managed and got better and better. Plus, we had LaDainian Tomlinson and a great offensive line. Well, it was a heck of a practice. I mean, those guys practicing against each other were really good. Well, the next thing you know, we're playing in the AFC Championship game. So maybe I'm a little bit correct. And that's the key, is to do it. So is this guy going to get that done? I don't know, Jeff. I couldn't tell you. I don't know enough. It'd be improper for me to comment on that. But he's got some tools in his chest. We'll find out what he does with them.
Amazing. Aside from Carson Palmer, you mentioned Sanchez. How many bust-out quarterbacks have come out of USC, which, had that long run of just monumental success there where they were atop the college football world. Mike, always a pleasure. How can people get access to the book now? And I guess the official date of release is right around the corner. So figure it out. And
July
obviously
12th.
people can tell. Yeah.
Right now, it's really easy. Right now, it's very simple. You just go in on the computer. You just go into Mascot Books, MASCOT, mascotbooks.com. And if you're in the search area, you put in the title of the book, Figure It Out. It'll come up. Find me. You'll see it. You can get it either in, they call it a soft cover, which is not a paperback. It's a little, not quite as expensive, or a hardcover. And it'll be delivered right to your house. They deliver it to you, just like Amazon or anywhere. So you can get it right now through the publisher, or it's in the middle of July, anywhere, be in the bookstores, etc. I'm proud of it. I think it's a great story that needed told, and I'm extremely proud. I think people will get a pretty good look at what the National Football League is kind of really about in some of the players' language. So be prepared. It's a little salty.
Mike Westhoff would expect no less,
Thanks, Coach.
especially after, as Lubie mentioned, that brilliant performance on HBO's Hard Knocks, where you stole the show. I mean, right from Rex Ryan. He was finished. He was nothing. He was you didn't even want to see Rex. All we wanted to see was more Mike Westhoff in front of the group of players. Michael, we love you, man. Thanks so much for being with us. It's always a pleasure, my friend, to catch up with you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you. I love coming on with you guys. You guys are the best. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Mike Westhoff, ladies and gentlemen. That has to be sweet, man, when you pull one off, right? The fake punt goes for a touchdown. Maybe with a throwback to the snapper, who became eligible somehow once the bizarre deviation from the normal parameters, guidelines, and rules. All right, the unveiling, man. Are you up for a masquerade party, Lubie? This is going to be great. Versace Mansion. Wow.
Let's do it.
What was the guy's name? Kunanaman. They couldn't find the guy. He was living down the street for 3 weeks on a houseboat that somehow he'd confiscated from somebody who was staying at the Fontainebleau.
Remember very well.
That was a crazy story, huh? How many years ago was that? The Gianni Versace thing?
It was 90s, mid to late 90s.
All right, very compelling place,
96.
though. I mean, what they've done with the Versace Mansion as a place that's accessible to the public. I remember. Attending a couple of parties there, Lubie. I don't know if you were with me at the time.
No, I've never been there.
Station party.
It's amazing.
Yeah, Drew Rosenhaus had a big birthday party for either himself or his brother there or something. I was invited to, and it was fantastic. I remember him introducing me to Greg Olson, who had yet to sign his first pro contract.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, now he's the number one color analyst on Fox Network this year. Anyway, Versace Mansion is the side of this thing. It's the unveiling and great cause. VIP Masquerade Gala, and it's a World Peace Concert fundraiser to raise money to support Ukrainian refugees. And, I mean, you can't help. That's sort of been pushed aside now. I mean, as people continue to waffle in Congress about what to do about mass shootings.
Things, yeah.
Let's do nothing.
That's my favorite is, nothing's always better. It's like, what? Okay.
They're deserving of the derisive Mexican whistle from the fight. So I don't know if I can do it there. Right? You can hear that every time I see one of these oddballs go, well, I don't know, man. Second Amendment.
Yeah, okay.
Anything can be modified, my friends. Anyway, we've got to run. But don't forget about this big gala. It's called The Unveiling. So just Google that. And you can get ticket information and find out how you can donate to a very worthy cause. All right, Tony Segreto, going old school with us. Speaking of old school, it'll be good to see Tony. He's going to join us next here on the Defo Show, and we'll be back with that in a moment. Now that.
The time!
It is 8:03. Poker is your game. You're covered in style. And you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in the Plantation location, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. thank goodness for landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
Catholic Health Services is committed to care that changes as your needs do. Our full continuum of services is designed to be there throughout your care journey. If you need assistance with daily living, post-acute care following a serious health event, or additional medical care at home, we also offer skilled nursing and palliative and hospice care. Your care needs may change, but our commitment never does. Catholic Health Services, South Florida's #1 choice for post-acute and end-of-life care. Visit CatholicHealthServices.org.
What we gonna do right here is go back, way back into time.
We are now kicking it old school with the one and only Tony Segreto. Brought to you by Catholic Health Services and Texas Roadhouse.
All right, welcome back to the show. Jeff Deforrest, Mike Lubitz, the Defo Show here on Ion Channel. Various other ways you could find us around the universe. And wow, he looks particularly handsome today.
I'm handsome every day.
Yeah, but I mean, there was our good friend Jimmy Ross posted an old picture of Tony Segreto looking very, very slick. I mean, a suit that looked like it was really old school Italy.
Yeah.
And probably was silk and sewn by some gypsy outside of Florence who needed the money and was able to get it to Tony Segreto somehow. We welcome Tony Segreto to the program. And you're looking as good as you did in that picture like many, many years ago, my friend.
Get your eyes checked, but thank you. That's a nice way to start this Wednesday morning. Welcome back. Did you enjoy my motherland?
Oh, it was absolutely beautiful. I mean, and you kind of needed like an Italy and Europe 101 tour the first time around. But now that they've been there once, I know how I would play my hand the next time around. And every day would be enhanced a little bit by the fact that you kind of had the lay of the land and knew what you were doing and knew what you liked.
Yeah. Did you get to go to all like the big spots first? The Colosseum, the Vatican, all those places?
I think of the Coliseum in a different light, right? I'm thinking of like the LA Coliseum, where we used to go watch USC and the Rams and the Raiders actually play. But I saw that stuff. The Sistine Chapel was good. My favorite place was Venice, without question. I really enjoyed that. I could stay there, and then we had a very brief stint, although a lengthy tour visually, of the Amalfi Coast, which I thought was spectacular. Yes.
Spectacular.
And that would be, my move would be to split maybe 8 days between Venice and the Amalfi Coast and some of those small towns there that are on that winding road, which is the Pacific Coast Highway, maybe times 2. Yeah. And you could see why they're all great Formula One drivers. If you've ever driven on that road, man. I mean, the Fittipaldis, obviously had spent a lot of time there going up and down the Amalfi Coast. But it was beautiful, a great time, and couldn't be happier both to have gone and also to be back.
Did you have an over-under on how much weight you'd gain?
No, not really, because and it's funny because this is really indicative of being old school. My knee had kind of been bothering me. I had a surgery a few years ago on my right knee, and it's been fine ever since. Yeah. Okay. I literally walked out of the operating room pretty much as soon as I came to, walked to my car, did no rehab, and was back playing tennis a week later. Surgeon, his name was Dr. William McKay. Great guy, big fan of our shows, a big Lubie fan. He asked about you, Lubie, and Tony Segreto, of course. And, so he tells me that this problem I was having with my other knee is not similar. It's not like a meniscus tear, but what was arthritis related. Okay. And like things are starting to really get squirrely in there. And so he juiced me with a shot. All I could think of was Joe Willie Namath going into the 1968 AFC Championship game. And you see like documentaries about how he had to have his knees treated. Now, you don't really feel the shot going in because they have this like freezing technique. It's not like the old days if you got a shot of cortisone. Like you literally wanted to fly through the ceiling. Yeah. And it's embarrassing, especially if a doctor's doing it that like Harlan Selznick or something with the Miami Heat.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Used to treat me and Eddie Kaplan for our variety of old age injuries. And he would tell you, okay, if I give you this shot, you are going to go through the roof. I don't know. You ever get used with the cortisone or anything like that back in the day versus today? Because it's a whole different story today.
Yeah.
Anyway, he injects me with something that I don't even think Lance Armstrong's doctors knew about, and and it was all fairly commonplace, and it's some kind of lubricant, but I haven't been able to walk since.
So this,
I was walking yesterday, fine, but it was gimpy.
So in Italy, you didn't gain weight, or you walked. I'm trying to figure out.
Oh no, I try to watch myself
together.
on the Italy trip. I try to watch myself a little bit. I wasn't like overeating. Because I don't, even though, obviously I love food, but like everybody does. And I thought of you many times with your night in Roma.
Yeah.
It's such an excellent representation of the feeling that you get. It really is, Tony. I mean, this sincerity. You kind of replicate that good vibe that you get everywhere that you go in Italy. Everywhere that you go, especially when it comes to food. And, it was plentiful, but no, I watched myself. I went on my walks of life. Very enjoyable to walk around like Florence or Venice or the streets of Rome were not quite as attractive or appealing, but nonetheless, I mean, it was great. And so I did as much of that as I could. And we went on a lot of like arduous tours when it came to walking. So we were probably walking 10 miles a day altogether, and that kept us in balance.
Yeah. Well, it's nice to have you back. Lubie did a great job. I want to just bring up real quick. You were talking about the Versace mansion.
Yeah.
The day that Gianni Versace was killed was my first full day in news. It was the day I had made the split.
Why not just Hurricane Andrew in the afternoon that day too?
And now, mind you, I've got and I won't mention names, but I mean, even dear friends who I'd worked with for many, many years in the newsroom, they're sort of looking at me going like, what, what's the sports guy going to be? How he's doing news for us now? Like, how is this going to work? So when I get up in the morning and I'm hearing this story, I'm thinking to myself, and I'm telling Roseanne, my wife, I have got to come up with something. I have to come up with something to like sort of, make my entry and make a splash, makes like I know what I'm doing.
Did you think of a cape?
Yeah. So
to make your entrance?
Yeah, I had a big red.
Like you were Gorgeous George coming out on the stage there. Nice.
Anyway, before I go to work that day, like I'm getting ready, and my phone rings at home, and it's a friend of mine who's a chef, and well-known chef in the area. And I hadn't been in contact with him for a while. And he calls out of the blue. And how you doing? And I said, great. How are you doing? Great. I said, you got a restaurant going? He goes, no, I'm a private chef now. He goes, that's kind of why I'm calling you. I go, really? He goes, yeah. He goes, I'm Gianni Versace's private chef. Would you be interested in an exclusive interview?
Oh, wow.
Wow.
He goes,
that's a good one, man. I mean, I'll take anybody. The bodyguard, that's great.
He goes, I was the first one to the body. I go, I'm there.
Wow.
So I had to meet him. I met him in an alley.
Dramatic.
Yeah, I met him in an alley behind the mansion, and we did the interview.
This is your first day doing news? I mean, you were talking to Don Shula before that on a regular basis. Okay, Coach, what about last week's game?
First day doing news. First day doing news. So, yeah, exactly. What about that call on 3rd and 3?
Can you believe these refs? Yeah. You can't say it, Coach, but can you believe these refs?
Yeah. Can you believe all that?
Oh my God.
And then of course the Andrew Cunanan, we broke that story when we found them on the houseboat. So I remember that.
How come they couldn't find his cat though? He's staying at the Fontainebleau essentially.
It's like sometimes
he's ordering room service every day. They can't find him.
Sometimes the best hiding spot is right under the nose.
Well, it was in that case. Yeah, that was a weird one. What was his beef again, Cunanan? What was the whole thing about? Like a lousy pair of shoes or something?
I think it had. I don't recall. I believe it was something.
A love quarrel in a.
I think it was a
gay love triangle or something. Was that it?
That. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a juicy story, Segreto, to open up with.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Now, what do the other guys think when you cop this exclusive interview with the guy that was the first guy to cover the body there and knew the intimate details of what went on?
It was like this.
I was going to say, did you credibility or were they bitter? Might have been both.
And the Red Sox today, 3-2 over the Yankees. I tell you what.
That reminds me. Did you hear about the new quarterback the Dolphins have?
Exactly.
I mean, that sure beats the hell out of doing that preseason schedule prediction that they used to have to force you to do every year. That was unbelievable. Hey, Mike Westhoff, I know you have stories
I
about this.
love Mike. He and I are good friends. I think the
Yeah.
world of him. What a great coach. And I really think Shula used to talk about the three phases of football, and the forgotten phase was always special teams. Jimmy really brought it home.
He was into it. Yeah.
Jimmy was really into it. He felt like that was like the difference makers in games. And I think Jimmy helped elevate Westhoff into the mainstream. Shula had him, and Shula knew how great he was. And there was no question the respect that Don Shula had for Mike Westhoff. It was as high a respect as I have ever seen coach have for another coach, right? Jimmy really hammered home that special teams. And I think that elevated Mike where people knew who he was. Yeah. How many special teams
And the Hard Knocks thing.
Yeah.
I mean, that was huge for him.
And he had the person. Listen, Mike has that perfect personality. He's a coach. There's no question he's a coach. He has that edgy, gruff, kind of cranky personality. But when you flip that personality over, you look on the other side, there's that really soft, very affable, very charming man who loves to talk about the game. He's one of those coaches who really loves to explain it. He wants to take you inside to his world. He knows you're not going to get every part of his world, but he's willing to talk about it with you. And I think that just really is a great asset that man has. I love him.
Well, and there's a certainty about him. I mean, you didn't get this from Joe Philbin, where you felt like, oh, okay, we might have had success on this play, but it wasn't by design, so it wasn't as satisfying. He was great like that.
Right.
No doubt. And it was interesting that, Shula was more of a gambler than people would give him credit for.
Oh, yeah.
He would take some chances. But I wanted to, and we're going to talk to Ed Garcia here in just a sec, but I mean, I couldn't help but think back to the days that we used to go to that dump.
Oh, yeah.
At St. Thomas. And I will never forget this. I'm driving a little MGB. I've told this story a few times. I came from California. I hadn't been to the practice facility. And I didn't realize it. I'm looking to see, wow, that can't be the building there. I must have made a wrong turn somewhere. I wasn't familiar with Miami, and this was before Google Maps and anything like that. And I drove into that sinkhole that was in the parking lot, and my car literally was submerged underground. And I'm thinking, what a way to introduce myself to Don Shula and the Miami Dolphins, having to have, people, come in and fish my car out of a hole.
Yeah. Oh, it was.
Stu Weinstein was like, "Who's this cat, man?"
It was. We'll talk about some of those fake things that Shula did, but I know we have Ed on the phone. So, hey, Ed, are you there?
Ed from Texas Roadhouse.
Good morning.
Hey, how are you, Ed?
Where are you?
I'm doing fantastic. I'm actually hanging out here in Boca, so getting ready for a fun day. Working a couple restaurants later this afternoon in Coconut Creek and Miramar.
Oh, nice.
Well, we have Father's Day coming up.
Ooh.
And I'm wondering what we can do, what's going on at Texas Roadhouse, because if someone's looking to get your dad something special, take him to Texas Roadhouse, would you? Or get him a couple of gift certificates and or even grab some steaks and take it out or whatever and do it. But make sure Texas Roadhouse is on the list for a Father's Day celebration, right, Ed?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if you're not able to make it in that weekend, we have gift cards. And we talked about last week, we have the butcher shop where you can order the steaks online. And I'll tell you, there is nothing that's going to make Dad smile any bigger than when you get those bone-in ribeyes. I mean, they are 22-ounce ribeyes, which is the most flavorful steak. And they're just absolutely gorgeous. I know, Tony, you've had some of those. But if you have time to come on in, come in all weekend. I mean, we're going to be serving that fresh baked bread. All sides are made from scratch. And make sure to use that mobile app. You are going to save so much time where you're going to be able to get there, grab a nice cold beer, maybe just wait a few more minutes while we finish off your table, get sat down, enjoy some line dancing and some great food and some great service.
And now that we're in the throes of summer, what better way to spend a weekend to go and get a couple of nice cold brews, sit at the bar, bring your family, you can even go by yourself, watch some games. You got the Belmont coming up this Saturday, all these different events that are happening. You could not pick a better spot. With how many TVs do these Texas Roadhouses have? I want to make sure people understand. This is like walking in to the best electronics store with TVs all around you, plus, right?
A cold beer.
Yeah, and a cold beer. What more could you want? How many TVs do you have in these restaurants?
We have a minimum of 10, depending on the location, and they keep getting bigger every year, Tony. It's pretty awesome. Now our central features 85 inches, so you can't go wrong with that.
Oh, wow.
Goodness me. 85 inches, a cold beer, the best bread in town. Forget that low-carb stinking diet you got over there going. For one day, have some carbs, have great bread, get yourself an amazing steak. If you're not a meat lover, you've got chicken, you've got great fish. The salmon's off the hook, no pun intended. But Ed Garcia, we are so pleased to be a part of this, and we love promoting Texas Roadhouse. Even when you're not on, Ed, we're talking about Texas Roadhouse all the time. That's how much we love it.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Thanks, Ed. Enjoy South
Florida. It's great stuff. And, I see it all the time. Mike Mayo, our contemporary here, and one of our partners on the program, The Gambler Gourmet, has a thing with the Sun Sentinel called Let's Eat South Florida. 80,000 subscribers on Facebook. And Texas Roadhouse always is mentioned in a favorable light, and especially when somebody poses a question like, hey, it's my dad's 80th birthday. I'm looking for a steakhouse, but we're going to be a party of 6, so I don't know that we can afford to get creamed, with what's going on with steakhouses. And then the answers usually are along the lines of Texas Roadhouse, where you can go and, still get a great steak at a ridiculously reasonable price. I don't know how you're doing it, Ed. Did you think about running for president? Because to fight inflation, I've got you all over Joe Biden right now.
Well, I'm gonna, see what happens here in the Florida race, and then maybe try to jump in that one and start small, and then work my way up.
Well, all I'm telling you, Ed, is all you need to do is have a gas pump at a Texas Roadhouse, and it's over.
And it would be like $2.
Yeah, that's all you need. Listen, we are proud to be a family together with you, and proud to promote you, and we cannot think of a better way of spending an afternoon or an early evening at Texas Roadhouse.
Great places. Ed, thanks so much for being with us. Ed Garcia, ladies and gentlemen.
That was an interesting delay there, Lubie. What was that? Because he was on the phone?
Yeah, he's on the phone. Well, he usually gets right out. Well, he tries to get right out. You guys were keeping him on. He usually tries to do his thing, and he's a pro. He does a thing, and he gets out. You guys, he's not used to the extended Ed conversation, so I think you throw him off.
We like talking to the guy, man. No, it really is a great thing. I mean, if you look at what's going on in restaurants, Tony, I mean,
I know.
I like to get out there, and I appreciate a great steak. I'm not a big steak eater anymore, but if I do have one, I want it to be great. And you're paying $70-$80 in a lot of places for a steak that's $22.60 at Texas Roadhouse. It's great.
Yep. I agree. Listen, there's a level in which you go. A lot of the times it becomes word of mouth. I mean, there's one restaurant on South Beach that brings you the steak in a briefcase, for goodness sake, and you're paying $1,000 for
That's just what I'm looking for. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for.
Does it come with a squirt gun? I mean,
exactly.
God, come on already. I mean, do you have to?
That was Bill Kamal. That was Bill Kamal. Sorry to make that reference here on the show.
That was
very unfortunate. See, you know what? And we got to the bottom of that, Tony, just real quickly here before we hit this break. But you know this from working in the business, okay? And you were on the later shifts. It was like you were coming in at 4 o'clock or 3 o'clock, whatever. I mean, I'm sure you were there early in the day many times too. But in general, you were going to be there till 11 o'clock at night. And I know this from working in the business that nothing that ever came to the station, even if it had your name on it and said, do not touch if you were not named Jeff Deforrest or Tony Segreto, you know that by the time you got there for the night shift, anything that looked like it might be remotely tempting to take is going to be swiped by somebody that is there earlier in the day. So there's no way those squirt guns were still around when Kamal happened to go by, the mailroom there and see what was there for him.
No comment. I'm not even going down that road. I'm not going down that road.
They never would have survived the pilfers and the thieves that work in these situations. I never got a book that was addressed to me, right? The guy would, like Mike Westhoff would say, hey, did you read my book? I say, what book? I sent you 3
will tell
copies.
you.
I had it autographed to the Mustang.
Yeah, I can tell you this. Every once in a while, you do an event, and people would want to thank you for coming to the event, especially charity events. You'd never, it was always out of the goodness of your heart because you believed in the charity.
Like this thing Jack has going at the Versace Mansion.
Exactly. And a lot of times what they'll do is they would send you a basket. Like in the basket,
right.
It'd be fruit basket or it'd be candy or cookies or whatever. Now, my office, actually what I had done, and my office was sort of off the newsroom. I would always have stuff in my office anyway. I always had Tootsie Roll Pops or, some sort of little sweet candy, whatever it was. And that would be a nice way to bring people in and have conversation with them if I couldn't work the room, right? Because it's important that you talk to your producers and everything. But I'll tell you what, if I would get a candy basket or something, it would be like moths to a flame.
Yeah. Only the straw was left in a basket. And then, like, nobody would admit that they took the crap. It's just like, okay, so you took all of the cheese that was just sent to me from Italy that came in this gift basket that was shipped overnight.
Did you ever watch the series of Friends? Did you ever watch that show, Friends?
Yeah, sure.
There was one episode in particular. I mean, I watch it. I'm not a series watcher. I don't know all, but there was this one episode where Ross has his after Thanksgiving sandwich that his sister made him. That's a special sandwich.
Yeah.
And he goes absolutely bonkers because someone takes his sandwich and they have to suspend him for a week because they think he's insane. How mad he got because someone took his sandwich.
Oh no, the fridge was fair game. People were insane about the fridge. You couldn't keep your stuff on lock at all in the fridge.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I still never got to the bottom. I remember one day I was coming back. I had played a baseball game on a road. And I had already blown the $3 of food money that they gave us, and you could buy a lot with that back in that time. I mean, we're talking about like 1970. All right, so I had saved half of a Carol's hamburger, which wasn't my favorite. I mean, it wasn't McDonald's. This is in the early days of these fast food hamburger chains, and Carol's was the local place in Syracuse, and they had the atrocious audacity to put mustard on a hamburger. For a guy from New York, it had mustard and ketchup. So anyway, as ugly and appealing as this might have been, I was craving having this hamburger that I had left, not even in a refrigerator, but on a bureau from the day before. When I got back to my room, and my roommate ate it. And it was like, I still remember this now, like 50 years later.
You still hold a grudge?
I don't hold a grudge. I just, I was like, geez, were you ever like looking forward to something like that?
Yeah. All the time.
And it's gone, right?
All the time. And Roseanne looks at me and she'll go, really? Get over it. It's done.
I hate it. Just I hate it. It's all right. People will be doing that with Texas Roadhouse. If you, you're going to have leftovers there because the portions are so big. Sure. All right, we're coming back with more Old School with Tony Segreto, also brought to you by Catholic Health Services. Much to discuss with Tony. So many things have gone on, Tony.
I know.
Since the last time we spoke. And
I know.
You are our official reporter, and I don't know. It looks like some wild stuff, and we'll get into this in the next segment here. With your women's softball and this college baseball World Series, is to use the word of the great Gordon Soley, the wrestling announcer, pandemonium.
Yeah,
that's what it's been, pandemonium. Yeah. All right, we're coming back with more pandemonium. Old School with Tony Segreto in a moment here on the Defo Show. Now that
the time.
It took us 10 minutes to get to that break. It's 7:28. Poker is your game. You're covered in style, and you can play all your favorite Vegas-style games, including blackjack, craps, and roulette, in Hialeah Park's sizzling hot casino. Get a player's card when you walk through the door for all kinds of generous amenities, including our favorite, free play, when you come out to the ultimate casino and entertainment destination, Hialeah Park.
These days, we're all looking for comfort anywhere we can find it. Thank goodness for Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill in the Plantation location, because they are making sure you are as comfortable as possible. You're going to have the best wings in the world. You're going to have a great burger. You're going to have their amazing soups. Again, Landlubbers Raw Bar and Grill. It's nice and easy. Just go to landlubbersbarandgrill.com for both your pickup and free delivery. thank goodness for landlubbers for making you always feel right at home.
Catholic Health Services is committed to care that changes as your needs do. Our full continuum of services is designed to be there throughout your care journey. If you need assistance with daily living, post-acute care following a serious health event, or additional medical care at home, we also offer skilled nursing and palliative and hospice care. Your care needs may change, but our commitment never does. Catholic Health Services, South Florida's #1 choice for post-acute and end-of-life care. Visit CatholicHealthServices.org.
This comes from the great Defo Lama. It's the bets you don't make, the chances you don't take, that can compromise an otherwise incredible life, my friend.
The only way to get your morning started is with Defo, joined by Lubie, right here on The Defo Show.
Welcome back to the show, the Defo Show here on Ion Channel. Jeff Deforrest, Mike Lubie, Lubitz, Tony Segreto, old school every Wednesday with us, brought to you by Catholic Health Services and Texas Roadhouse Restaurants, which it is remarkable. I don't know how you keep that price down like that. That's pretty incredible in today's economy.
They work so hard.
Yeah.
At every aspect. Again, we're going to throw this back to old school. When in Defo, you can validate this. Going to practice when Don Shula was the head coach was probably the most boring thing that you could do. Honest to goodness, because they would run play after play after play, the same one, and they would do. And Shula was all about not making stupid mistakes, not jumping offside, and attention. His big thing, and you remember this, Jeff. Attention to detail.
Yeah.
There's not a detail that he did not make sure was taken care of. Not one. Okay. And Texas Roadhouse does that. They worry about customer service. They worry about the food. They worry about how it's done. They worry about prices. The app, they're working all the time, and it pays off because it's always crowded and they're doing well. And their first quarter earnings were, again, through the roof. So, when you have businesses like that, Catholic Health Services does the same thing. And I hate to just mention the sponsors we have for this hour, but they're incredible groups of people.
No, great. I mean, first-class organizations. I was trying to figure this out. I don't know. This is getting back to the pucks thing here in town. I started to pose this question earlier, and then we got sidetracked and ended up talking about going to the bathroom on an airplane or something. But
exactly what happened. That's literally what happened.
It happens from time to time. But
oh, really? Not on this hour?
The entire show. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the Florida Panthers. I mean, they try to represent themselves as a first-class organization. And I'm just curious what you think about this, because you've been around all of these different teams, and there have been many different leaders of teams. For the most part, South Florida sports teams have had fairly solid, people overall in charge of what they were doing. I mean, Joe Robbie knew what he was doing. He hired Don Shula. He made a trade for Don Shula, right? I mean, he had to give up cash, which he was very reluctant to do. I mean, he wasn't like one of these guys that was, like they say, I mean, he was throwing nickels around like manhole covers.
Joe Thomas. Let's not forget Joe Thomas. I mean,
Joe Thomas, good, yeah.
Joe Thomas was the guy. I mean, he's the guy who knew who Jake Scott was. He was the guy who did the draft.
Didn't he have like a little George Young action early on, or was he
George,
straight up?
George was after Joe. George was after Joe.
Yeah, I mean, but I always had, good people. It seemed like a class organization. Like when I first encountered dealing with the Miami Dolphins, I thought, wow, it is a classy organization. I'd been around some good organizations. Maybe the classiest I've ever been around was the Los Angeles Dodgers back in the day. I mean, it just was extremely, extremely well-run professional sports franchise back in the O'Malley days there. And, they had a lot of good people there that were very accommodating. A lot of the other teams, too, even New York teams, weren't as difficult to deal with as most people would imagine. The Mets were always super cooperative. I don't know about how the New York Knicks were, but Dolphins were always, great in that regard. I think the Heat have always been relatively good, although more guarded. Lubie, would you say that's fair? It's a little harder to get a hold of a Heat guy than it is, although very cooperative with us over the time. Tim Donovan kind of, makes sure that Pat Riley's okay. But I mean, the Panthers have been a mixed bag of things. Never, perceived to be a bad organization. This Vinny Viola came in.
Never perceived to be a good organization.
Yeah.
So the question is this: Are they first class or half-assed? as we look at the results that they achieved this year, and is it necessary to judge them in this way? I just we asked this question. You would be able to address this, Tony, with all the athletes you've been around and teams and coaches. Because it always amazes me when a guy, you mentioned holding a grudge about this burger. 52 years later, I still remember this stinking Carol's hamburger that I wasn't able to eat, which was probably going to poison me anyway from sitting on the shelf.
I remember stuff like that too. So you're not the Lone Ranger here. I mean,
but
I mean, all the time.
Do you? I mean, we watched Pat Riley with this press conference the other day, and he said he was literally like sick after the Heat lost to the Celtics in Game 7. And I'm thinking, do you really feel like people are fueled by that sort of thing? I know Serena Williams always had the statement that, she is more upset about losing than thrilled about winning. Always found that to be a little bit odd to be so negatively motivated.
I don't find that odd at all.
For some reason.
I don't find that odd at all. That makes perfect sense to me. And Pat Riley, to me, I just think he is the quintessential guy in this town right now. Okay,
epitome of class and dignity, in my opinion,
without question. And I'm going to add something to that: passion. This guy has a passion and a fire. That's why he and Shula got along so well. They both represented that class, integrity, doing it the right way, not cutting corners. It's what do they say? The person with the real honest and fruitful integrity is the one who you can get alone in the dark and how they think and how their thoughts go. And that when Pat, you can understand how Pat would be sick to his stomach with that seventh game loss. You can understand that. And he wears his heart on his sleeve. He is as honest as he's allowed to be, without throwing people under the bus or whatever the case might be. I mean, you got people you have to protect too, especially if you're making a call and you haven't told the person yet you're going to do something, or there's going to be a trade that you're working on. If it falls through, you don't want to let the other people feel bad about, they may be gone, they may be coming, whatever the case might be. But I believe Pat Riley. I loved what he did. I loved what he said. I loved his approach. I loved that, he challenged Lowry, that he challenged his hero. I love that's so Pat Riley. And that's so old school. But Riley carries the stick that just everybody pays attention to him. When you walk into a room of NFL owners, for example, or NBA owners, they all carry a big stick. Every single one of them has a huge stick. All right. But what stick do you listen to? And I don't care who you are in this league. When Pat Riley speaks, you're like this. Okay, what's he going to have to say now?
No, it was always great. I mean,
Panthers, I'm not so sure about. I'm with you.
They don't. It's the opposite.
I don't know. Are they clowns? I mean, what's going on with that?
You sort of, every once in a while, you forget. Listen, do you ever forget that the Heat are in Miami? Do you ever forget the Dolphins are in Miami? No. Do you ever forget the Hurricanes are in Miami? No. Do you ever forget the Marlins, as good or bad as they are?
Marlins, I know. I found them to be forgettable.
But how?
I really have. Yeah.
The Panthers seem to be that way too. Oh, we have a hockey team. Oh yeah. That's one of those.
That may be true of the sport in general, though. I mean,
I don't know about that. I think the ratings did pretty well this year. Certainly not as good as some of the other sports.
It's an abstract game. I mean, it's hard for the average guy to just watch a game and see, that it isn't just a bunch of guys running around in circles going back and forth.
And I've always said
smashing into each other on skates.
Yeah. And I've always said this, that National Hockey League hockey as a sport it's not a made for TV sport. It just does that.
It's way better in person.
Yeah, it's all right on TV though. I mean, it's
okay.
not horrible anymore. They do a good job of.
They do much better than they used to, and you would hope that they would. But the other sports we're so used to, even baseball. You want to go to the game. Part of the charm of going to a baseball game.
It's true of all sports, though, don't you?
Yeah. Well, I love the energy. I love the energy. I think when it comes to football, a lot of people would rather stay in their house.
Football
only because of the hassle that's involved in going to a game. Yeah. But you'd rather be at the game. I would.
Yeah, I do. Listen, me too. But I just think that
unless you can't walk, I mean.
Yeah, well, I wonder about the Panthers only because I just think they're forgettable, and that's not a good thing.
Say that again.
And I think that's part of the issue. I mean, I would love to there's no way that people are always going to jump on the bandwagon. They're always going to get excited. And when they get let down, they let it go. They forget about it. And they go, all right, we'll get excited again when you take us to the spot again, and we'll see how we feel about it. And that's kind of where it is. It's not like the Dolphins and the Hurricanes where you're talking about them year round. Listen, there's no question we're a football town, right?
Yeah.
There's no question about that. So I get that part. But still, I mean, it's
You need the right guy in charge. There's no question. Now this
that's
Bill
it.
you need
Zito
someone.
guy,
You need
I think
someone
he's all right.
you need someone who's
That was a
got
weird
that.
story the way that ended though this year, because it
very
couldn't have been
strange.
any flatter that period
Yeah.
that they put on the season.
Yeah.
And it really did. It ended with such a thud that you started to question again all of these same things. So although I'm not sure how fair that is, but then when you see Pat Riley and his commitment and the fact that it got to the point where he's so depressed he doesn't even want to wake up in the morning because he lost to the Celtics, for God's sake. Now, do you think that all goes back? Lubie might have been right about this. It all goes back to Danny Ainge.
It
And
might.
his openly
Well, I mean, he
despising
doesn't
Danny
like,
Ainge. Certainly, he can't have any fault, being a basketball historian with the history of the Celtics and the fact that they're, now engaged in the finals and won with
Can I
Golden
tell
State.
you?
Yeah.
Can I tell you something? This reminds me of me for a minute. Okay, you talk about could it go back to Danny Ainge, right? Now,
Well,
listen,
it could always go back to Danny Ainge.
well,
I
of
guess.
course. Now, I going to Miami like I did, and
Yeah.
doing all the games that I did, and still heavily involved on campus, doing a bunch of different amazing things on campus. I've always obviously been a Hurricane fan and never a big Gator fan, but the level of dislike for the Gators stems from the Gator flop for
Gator
me.
flop, yeah.
People talk
I
about
That
was
would do it.
I was on the field.
Disgusting.
It was just
A disgrace. A disgrace.
the most disgusting, disgraceful thing in sports that I have ever. You get me going.
We've seen a few
Nah,
examples of
every
it since.
You
there
get
have been
me,
a few cases
you
of that.
You
Gator
get me
flop.
going on that, and I will just
Yeah.
tear it apart. And ever since then, man, my dislike has just never waned.
See, doing talk shows during the heyday of the Gator Canes rivalry, which really isn't there to the same level as it used to be.
Well,
I
because
don't
they
feel
don't
that
play
way.
every
they
year.
don't
anymore.
play. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and you just I used to be right at the center of it, and I love this because there was nothing better than igniting a spark in those hillbilly Gator fans, and it got to the point really where I was actually a known enemy of the Gator Nation, Tony. See, you had to be a little more neutral on TV. But I had egged these people on to the point where a guy actually called a Steve Spurrier show, a guy named Gator Bill, who went by the moniker Gator Bill, and he used to call the show, and he would say a few nice things about me, like I wasn't that bad of a guy, and then completely ream me, a new asshole about what a jerk I was about the whole Gator situation, which I would then play banjo music and
Yep,
animal
and
farm
the
animal
animals,
sounds in the
yep.
background, as if I was at a Gator pep rally. And so he says to Spurrier on the show as a call-in guest, he says, are you aware of this guy, Jeff Deforrest? He mispronounced my name as like DeFlorest, down here in South Florida, and he seems to be a constant enemy of the Gator Nation. And Spurrier, much to my surprise, I happen to be watching this thing because I loved Gator Hotline as my favorite, like, hillbilly freak show on TV, where, you would have all kinds of people that were completely indiscernible calling in, and then Hubert would, guide Spurrier to an answer of the question that no one understood, right? So Spurrier fires
I'm
back.
glad you're still making friends. I'm glad you're still making friends.
Well, Spurrier fires back. Yes, we're aware of that DeForest guy. I'm like, Spurrier is
like
thinking
it's the
about
CIA,
me?
FBI.
He's got the Hurricane monster defense. He's going to be going against Warren
Worried about
Sapp, for
Defo.
God's sake. And he's worried about what I'm saying on Gator
love
Hotline.
that.
Our best was the phony Gator Hotline. It was one of our better bits of all time. We would just take various calls from hillbillies. I think it went underappreciated as a radio entity down here.
It's wild. It's absolutely wild. And that's what's so that I think that rivalry will be ignited again.
I don't see it. I don't see it.
Well, I'm gonna tell you what I think, and I'm gonna go back. What Mario Cristobal is doing, the brilliant I believe brilliant moves he's making. Bringing in Roland. I mean, what a brilliant move.
Alonzo Highsmith, man, I like that move.
And
That
bringing in Alonzo, another brilliant move.
Ed Reed, who could perform poorly and give a half-assed effort in front of
you got
Ed Reed.
Reed. You got the greatest, probably the best all-time high school football coach in South Florida on the staff now. I mean, come on. And who's going to handle the relationship between the University of Miami and high school? And over half those high school coaches coached under coach. So I mean, you've got that. You got Alonzo helping with talking to a player and being honest with them, like, hey, you got a shot if you do these things here. And you've got all the other coaches. I just think what he's doing there is brilliant. And I think when they get on the field, they're going to have a dignified yet very old school swag about them, and they're going to play hard and they're going to do their thing. And I am really excited, especially after spending time with him and Dan Radakovich and kind of feeling their energy. I think we're in for some fun.
I mean, let's not forget my favorite female wrestler of all time, the fabulous Moolah, which is going to play a role in all of this also, Tony. And
Moolah.
How on the level is this Ruiz cat? That's what I want to know. How on the level is this guy? Are we going to have another Nevin Shapiro thing going here, where the guy that's doling out all of this name and license, image and
I can tell you this. I would be shocked if anything like that ever happened again.
Have you seen those twins on the campus yet? Are they there yet? The volleyball
I have not
twins,
seen them.
Or whatever they are, basketball.
I have not seen them yet.
Came from what? Stanford, and they're like huge.
Fresno State,
and somewhere.
No, listen. Sam, my daughter Sam's closest friends on the FSU softball team are doing quite well. With the NIL, they're doing quite, and good for them. Good for them. I'm glad they're doing well. I think managing it is the difficult thing, but managing all of that, even before that, managing.
I don't know about management donors either. I mean,
no, I'm talking about managing donors and
Yeah.
things like that. I think Miami has a number of people on top of all of these things and making sure that and here's the thing: the NCAA doesn't know what it's doing.
I mean, there's a discovery.
They come up with this whole NIL idea, but they don't have any.
That was the last thing they were going to come up with.
They ain't come up
with that. They didn't come up with that. They had to embrace it because they were going to
government
lose every
did it.
lawsuit.
What the point is, they did, but they didn't give any. There's no structure to it, so now it's just absolute chaos.
It's great, man.
Yep.
You got.
You don't think Nick Saban's guys are making out pretty well?
Oh my God!
Yeah, come on, he's talking about his ass.
While he's crying.
He's yelling at Lubie's favorite former FSU head coach. He's screaming at him about doing stuff. That whole war is like it's hysterical.
It's great, man. I mean, it really is like watching an episode of the Kardashians with a pigskin.
Yeah, for sure.
Like the rich elitist coaches there are fighting it out because who's cheating more. All right, Tony, Catholic Health Services, they don't cheat you on the services, that's for sure.
No.
And the medical industry, this was great yesterday. Thank goodness I'm on Medicare. This one great aspect of being old. Because it was funny. I had to make an appointment. My knee had been bothering me for a while, so I wanted to see if maybe I could get a little juice in there and fix it up and, see what was happening also in case I might have, had to have some kind of more extensive care. And the lady says to me, I called on Monday when I got back from Italy, and, she said, how about Tuesday, June 7th? And I thought, wow, what year? And she meant like yesterday, which was impossible because Medicare. And then it turned out the doctor, a great doctor named William McKay, he said, hey, good thing you're on Medicare because I can give you this shot right now. Otherwise, it might take a while, right? So, that's a good thing. And you don't get a lot of good care around. I mean, with insurance companies and all this stuff, I mean, you really need to go to the right people.
Yeah, you do.
To get the job done correctly and to your satisfaction, and also to, eliminate all this anxiety associated with medical care. Catholic Health Services, far and away the best at all of that.
I cannot. If I could stand on a rooftop and scream how great Catholic Health Services is without falling off that roof, I would be more than happy to do it because they are remarkable. And again, we went through this last night. Roseanne is here with me now in Vermont. She had been with her mom and her other family members who were.
I didn't recognize you in Vermont until I saw the duck decoy in the background, whatever that is.
No, it's not a duck; it's a hat.
Those are hats.
Anyway,
you're wearing it.
one of my family members, my in-laws, had been in the hospital now for 6 weeks, and they're in a rehab facility, and they never, they had a rough day yesterday, and no one at this rehab facility called the family members. No one took blood pressure. No one took anything like that. And to the point where they're moving her to the hospital as we speak, out of the facility, because no one was on top of it. That would not happen at Catholic Health Services. They're on top of it. They have doctors there. They actually have doctors at a rehab facility. Can you believe it? Not just nurse practitioners, who are, by the way, the strong arm of the doctor in many cases. But they have doctors there. They have therapists there. They have rehab therapists there. They have, all different, every level of nurse there. And the administration, they're all there for one reason. What's that reason? To make your loved one feel better, and get on their feet from whatever issue they had quicker than they could have ever imagined. And they want to take care of the family as well. They do this every day for every patient. They make every patient feel like they're the only patient they have. And that's a remarkable trait to do. That when you meet someone who just makes you feel you're the only one in the room, a room of crowded people, that's pretty amazing. And that's what Catholic Health Services does every single time with every single patient. They do it with an expertise and a compassionate heart that is unmatched. And not to mention the expertise that all of these doctors and therapists and nurses have. So I tell you, if you have any kind of an issue, even if you don't have an issue and you want to know more about what you need to take care of yourself and just kind of get hooked up and connected with Catholic Health Services, give them a call. They'd be more than happy to talk to you, more than happy to show you around, in fact, and more than happy to let you know what they can do for you and your family. God forbid you need that. So I strongly recommend that. Defoe's done it with his family. And I know that Lubie, God forbid, he needs to do it with his family. Yeah. That would be the group that he would call Catholic Health Services.
Well, and you'll appreciate this, Tony. On my perusal of the Sistine Chapel there, I actually lit a candle in the St. Peter's Cathedral. And I said thank you to the people at Catholic Health Services for the great care for, my mom, who is now, in heaven there. But, they made it possible for us to get through that, where prior to that, it was just a nightmare. With the people that we were dealing with. I mean, absolutely a disgrace. So, it really does. It makes a big, big difference in your overall approach and the peace of mind that you'll be able to sustain, knowing that whoever the patient is, whether it's you or a member of your family or a friend, is getting the proper service and care.
Yeah,
all right,
that was a great thing to do. That was a great thing to do. I'll tell you real quick. I
got thrown out of there though, Tony. You can appreciate this.
Well,
I mentioned to the tour guide that is there any kind of visible comparison between Michelangelo and Earl Scheib? After all, they were both naked. They looked at me kind of funny, like not even what kind of wise guy are you? What kind of asshole are you? Said to me in this Sistine Chapel. I was cursed out.
About 2 or 3 years ago, we were in New York, and I took Joey to. Joey had never been to St. Patrick's Cathedral in New York City.
Yeah.
So I took him to St. Patrick's Cathedral, and he had never been in a cathedral.
Nice Jewish boy, Joey Kornblit.
He walks in and he goes, I may convert. That was
yeah. I mean, the money.
It's amazing. Yeah, these places are amazing.
Holy crap, man! I mean, there's no shortage of artwork hanging on the walls there. All right, we're coming back with more Old School with Tony Segreto. I'm Jeff Deforrest. He is Mike Lubitz. Once again, Versace Mansion here is a big thing. I'm glad Jack's behind it. The unveiling at the Versace Mansion, a VIP masquerade gala. Kind of think Tony Segreto might be invited to. And it's a World Peace Concert fundraiser. There's going to be a very classy event, all to raise money to support the Ukrainian refugees who are in bad need and desperate need of our help. So whatever we can do at the unveiling, just Google that. You can get all the information about how you can contribute and or attend and be part of a big social event here to help out Ukrainian refugees. The unveiling at the Versace Mansion. All right, back with more in a moment. Now that.
The time.
Thank you, Johnny. It's 8:53.
Tony Segreto here. Let me ask you a question. What do you look for when you go out to eat? Good food, obviously, friendly atmosphere, not too loud, but good energy, reasonable prices, and a place where you feel comfortable. You're talking about the Texas Roadhouse. Good for a family, good for a date, or just a night out for yourself, and prices that will make you extremely happy. Their ribs unmatched. Steaks hand cut every day. Everything, and I mean everything, is made on site, including their incredible bread. Trust me when I tell you, Texas Roadhouse, your restaurant, your destination when you say, where should we go and eat tonight?
From the newly renovated sports bar to the beautiful bayside views captured at the Tiki Bar, Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill has it all. Located at mile marker 104, the Big Chill also offers waterfront dining while experiencing breathtaking sunset views of the Florida Keys. It's simply the hottest spot in the Keys to cool off. That's Jimmy Johnson's Big Chill at mile marker 104 in Key Largo. For more information, call today at 305-453-9066.
Any time of year, things can happen to your home or business, and the insurance company can be your friend, but they also can be your enemy. Horizon Public Adjusters, Justina Testa, are here for you to help this process go so much easier. 7 to 10 times more money recovered with a public adjuster than if you went on your own. If there's no recovery, there's no fee. Before you call your insurance company, call Horizon Public Adjusters and Justina Testa at 954-809-8752.
A young person at a crossroads in life has an opportunity that otherwise would not be there. A Tony Segreto charity event, raising hundreds of thousands of dollars to help young people to find themselves in today's chaotic universe. A noble endeavor through college athletics, hardworking coaches, many hours of practice, many hours cracking the books. There is an answer out there for NCAA athletics. Yes, it does involve the pursuit of virtue, and nobody better to expose that and generate that thought than the great Tony Segreto.
The morning just isn't right without Defo. It's now time for the Defo Show.
A lot of nice comments about Tony's character and the level of dignity that he's always displayed. And they were attached to that Facebook picture that was posted by our good friend Jimmy Ross of an old school Tony Segreto. Looking like, were you auditioning for Night Fever at that time? I mean, you looked like Travolta, my friend.
First of all, it was originally posted, and we should give credit to the great, and thank God he is feeling so much better, Larry Bluestein.
Oh yeah, it was Bluestein.
Okay. Larry Bluestein has a treasure trove of history in his house. I can't even believe it, but I thanked him, and I cannot tell you how much response we've gotten from that photo. My son laughs at it. He goes, "Dad, could those lapels been any wider?" And,
I mean, it was a strange outfit. You could be going to this masquerade as a guy from the 70s or 80s.
Sure, but
yeah.
But the kind words I've received from people have been, and the people I've heard from, it's been really nice. It's been way beyond what I could have ever expected, and it's very humbling to say the least.
All right, aluminum bats, Tony. I mean, this was one of the great things about doing college baseball, but
don't like them.
Nonetheless, I mean, games can turn, and dramatically so, with giant numbers being put up in any given half inning. And, it used to be particularly frustrating when Kenny Henderson was starting games for the Hurricanes, number 5 overall pick, and happened to be calling the games that year, and he would never get out of the first inning. I mean, 2/3 of an inning, give up like 11 runs. It was getting shelled.
Yeah.
But these games, and a lot of the teams that I thought were going to be, the common names that I'm familiar with in college baseball, I can't say that I follow it to anywhere near the level that I once did, but a lot of big names getting knocked out, including the Hurricanes on their way to the College Baseball World Series. I happened to run into, when I was on one of these walking tours in Florence, 3 very lovely ladies from Omaha, Nebraska. And so the one thing I had in common with them was knowledge of the local food item, the runza, which is designed to give you just that. And I remember having a couple going into Rosenblatt, and they were talking about how the stadium's different and everything. And I love that kind of feeling there, being an old school guy for the College Baseball World Series. But what's happening is Meshuggah in these tournaments that are leading up to it, there was a team that was down like 12-0. I think it was
Oh,
one of the
yeah.
big powers, like Oklahoma or something. And
They come back.
they not only come back, but they win the game by like 15.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's insane. But a lot of upsets, and the same thing on the women's side. I don't know if you've been
I've
following that too
it.
closely.
Yeah, certainly not as closely as when Sam was with Florida State was in it, and obviously, it's funny. I was telling my wife Roseanne, I go, man, my daughter at her age, when I was her age, after Florida State got knocked out, you couldn't talk to my daughter for like 2 days. She was just like, she's still, that team is still her, and she feels still part of that team. So, but I agree with you that these games now can get out of hand in a heartbeat, and also again, it goes back to these kids are. And for many cases, there are a lot of teams that haven't been there or haven't been there in a long time. So they're nervous. The stage is big. They're making throws that they normally wouldn't make. So it's something to watch. It really is. That there is something about college baseball and college softball that's worth watching. Just the mere fact that there's never a safe lead, and the games are always exciting. They really, really are. So if you're dying to find something different in sports to watch, I would definitely suggest. And listen, who would have ever thought the headlines of papers in Texas and in Tallahassee would be how Texas A&M had courted with a long-term, huge money deal for the softball coach for Florida State, Lonnie Alameda, to leave to go to Texas A&M. She turned it down because Florida State extended her contract and gave her a long extension to stay there. Who would have ever thought that would never have happened 10 years ago? Ever.
Only Gino Auriemma. Yeah, I mean, in addition to cleaning up the facility there, the women's softball coach was also, coaching golf and, track and field. So.
All
right, Tony, we have to run.
We love you, Tony.
Pleasure, as always. I mean, just a dynamite job. Tony Segreto going old school
with us. Great day. Love you guys.
Thanks to
welcome back.
Yeah, thank you, my friend. It's good to be back.
Welcome back. And I have to tell you, God bless Lubie. He did a wonderful, wonderful job while you were gone, and we missed you. But it's great to have you back, and it's great to be on.
It's a little frightening what this kid is doing. It really is. Some of the stuff I'm not really.
I'll follow him anywhere.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Have
we
a
love you,
beautiful
Tony.
day, folks.
Yes,
guys,
to the grave.
Thank you for a great hour.
No, a lot of fun. Tony, thanks so much. Catholic Health Services, Texas Roadhouse Restaurants involved there. Tony Segreto, Old School tomorrow. Dave Gurgles Gurgley joins us with another edition of the Hialeah Park Trivia Challenge. I can't believe it's already Thursday. I'm an advocate now.
Yes, sir.
They've been talking about this 4-day work week, Lubie.
It'd be wonderful. I'd be very
all
happy
over
with
the
it.
place. Some companies are experimenting with it, and they're not adding in the extra couple of hours where you go 4 days of 10 hours a day.
Nah, it's just 8 hours, 4 days.
I told you I was working in a cough drop factory when I first got out of school. My buddy and I had moved to Boston in an attempt to become folk musicians, if you will. He on guitar and me on like bongos. All right.
There you go.
How much dope were we smoking at the tail end of our senior year to come up with that plan? Anyway, his father, his name was Jake Smiley, and his father was Smiley of YNS Candies, Young and Smiley.
Okay.
YNS Candies, of course, the longtime makers, I don't know if they still do, of Twizzlers licorice, which was extremely popular. So they owned like a cough drop factory where we got jobs. We needed jobs because obviously we weren't going to hit the music scene, running, considering we didn't even have one song that we were able to do. What kind of fool am I?
Yeah.
So we ended up working in this cough drop factory, but they had this thing going where you worked 4 days a week for 10 hours a day. All right. Got that? 40-hour week. You had 1 day off. Come back like Papillon and do 4 more days of 10 hours a day. And then, though, every 2 weeks, you had 5 days off, Luke.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
Would you trade that off?
No, I don't
5
want that,
days
but
off
that's
every
interesting.
2 weeks. 5 days off every 2 weeks, busting your balls for 8 out of 9 days, and then 5 days of 5-day vacation every 2 weeks. What do you think?
I don't need that. I mean, I like the 4 days, 3 days off. I think that's the move. At some point, we'll get to.
Yeah. Same number of hours. I'm with you. All right, we'll do the same number of hours tomorrow. You can catch us after hours, though. We never stop working here, Defo and Lubie, with After Hours with Defo and Lubie. That's on the Believe Network. That's BLEAV. And we'll have some new content up there today for you as well. 5 Reasons Sports Network, another place to find us. And pleasure being with you all morning long. Thanks so much for being with us. We'll see you next time. Hialeah Park Trivia Challenge tomorrow. That's going to be a lot of fun with Dave Gurgles Gurgley. Although Lenny's out of town. Does he play?
Yes,
Like
I
in
don't know what we're
Saratoga?
going to do. I know. Is he going to call
I
from
might
there?
leave
I'm
the field
wondering.
wide open, although he was defeated the last couple of weeks here. He looked like the
was.
Rangers last night. All right, we'll see you tomorrow at 7 in the a.m. as we leave you now that.
The time.
Oh, and don't forget, a little Gambling Gourmet later on today. Mike Mayo and the Mike
sir.
Mayo Lunchbox Odyssey Radio app.
There you go.
It's 9:03.
Let's go to eat a damn snack.
Look what they done to my soul.